Hello everybody. I'm sure like me, enjoying this part of looking at the Ken Kratz sexting career when it all comes crashing down on Ken Kratz. This is part 2 of the press reports. We did part 1 yesterday where I looked at the first 5 in chronological order, 5 reports from the various newspapers. So this is carrying on from where I left off yesterday. This will be part 2. There's quite a lot of these to get through, but I think you'll find they're very, very interesting, and they explain actually a lot of what I was discussing in the DOJ reports. Anyway, let's just crack on with this is Friday, September the 17th, 2010. As I say, this is over a year later, nearly a year later than Stephanie Van Groll's case was first brought to the attention of the Corner police, and therefore the Wisconsin DOJ, who basically sat on it and did this deal with Ken Kratz not to make it public. And it's interesting to point out that one would have thought, having been reported to the Wisconsin DOJ as a result of his contacts with Stephanie Van Groll, that Ken Kratz would have simply kept his head below the pulpit and kept out of harm's way. Not at all. As we discovered with all those victims, there was many of them that were actually contacted by him after the Stephanie Van Groll case. Anyway, here is September the 17th, 2010, an hour, 2 hours after the first report, which was the end one of yesterday's. Madison, Wisconsin. The Associated Press. A Wisconsin prosecutor caught sending text messages to a domestic abuse victim is rejecting growing calls to resign and says he's the victim of a smear campaign. Why are we not surprised about that when it comes to Ken Kratz? It's not his fault. Everybody else's fault. They should have loved him more. Calumet County District Attorney Ken Sweaty Prize Kratz says he only cares about the opinion of local voters. Well, we know that's not true, Ken. As I posted yesterday in that Twitter, you know, that rare photograph of you, the only woman you've ever loved, who will get to decide whether he should stay in office. So in other words, just to explain, it has to come from within Calumet County, a complainant. He says Wisconsin attorneys have done far worse and haven't received near the attention or scrutiny that I have. Well, because at the moment, of course, there's only this one case of Stephanie Van Groll that's been made public. So Kratz, a Republican, says he intends to run for re-election in November of 2012. Well, you can think again on that one, Mr. Kratz. He spoke in an interview with the Associated Press on Friday, hours after a state lawmaker called on Governor Jim Doyle to remove him from office. Okay, so further on, just over an hour later, another update. Again, from the Associated Press. The Wisconsin District Attorneys Association is putting pressure on its former president to step down. And yes, he was the former president, that's right, of the Wisconsin District Attorneys Association, to step down over inappropriate text messages to a crime victim. As I say, he was when the Crime Victims' Rights Board was first set up. He was the only chairperson of that body until he resigned. But he had to resign through the District Attorneys Association because they are the ones that nominate their selection. They have their one selection. It says here the association's board, that's the Wisconsin District Attorney Association's board, on Friday approved a letter calling Calumet County District Attorney Ken Kratz's behaviour repugnant and inconsistent with the standards of our profession. The group of local district attorneys say such behaviour would get anyone in their offices fired, and that Kratz should reflect on his conduct and take the appropriate action. Alternatively, the group says it will ask Governor Jim Doyle to consider removing him from office. But as I say, that has to be done in a certain way, which explains why when we went through the DOJ reports, there were three blokes that came forward of various ages to say, I'd like to be the complainant. We'll get onto that. Kratz said earlier Friday he has no plans to resign, and he would be surprised if the group admonished him, since he's never seen a similar action in its history. He was president of the association in 1996. This is great, this is. The fall and fall of Ken Kratz. And once again, just to reiterate, in case you're wondering, why dwell on these cases? How many Brady violations is Ken Kratz facing? What made him think he could get away with all those Brady violations? We're finding out. Okay, this is Friday, September, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. A further update. Things are happening incredibly quickly here, aren't they? A spokesman says Governor Jim Doyle is very surprised and shocked by news that a district attorney sent sexually tinged text messages to a domestic abuse victim. Doyle's spokesman, Adam Collins, says that the governor believes the reports about Calumet County District Attorney Ken Kratz are shocking and troubling and should be taken seriously. Collins says Doyle will be in contact with Attorney General J.B. Van Hollen to discuss all options to take action against Kratz. And remember, of course, Van Hollen is Ken Kratz during the DOJ reports and the letters, the emails to and from Kevin Potter. Remember, Kratz was really annoyed because of his unconditional support for J.B. Van Hollen, also included a financial contribution to his election campaign. Anyway, carrying on with this report, those options include starting the process to remove him from office. Collins would not say whether that action would be taken, as some have urged. Kratz said earlier Friday he does not intend to resign and believes he is the victim of a smear campaign. Moving on to Saturday morning. 7:45 in the morning on Saturday, September the 18th. Again, Associated Press. A Wisconsin district attorney says he will get therapy and taking some time off work, but won't resign over sexually tinged sex messages to a domestic abuse victim. At a news conference Friday, Calumet County District Attorney Ken Kratz offered a, quote, sincere and heartfelt apology not only to the young woman, but to everyone who has been so deeply affected by this lack of judgment. Now, close comments. Quotes, but Kratz left without taking questions and didn't respond to calls for his resignation. He said only he would consider taking personal time off work as the court calendar will allow. Kratz says the 30 text messages he sent to the woman, again, quote, showed a lack of respect, unquote. In one, he asked whether she was, quote, the kind of girl that likes secret contact with an older, married, elected DA. Close quotes. One more, and then we better. I think that'll be 11 that we'll have done so far. So this is Monday morning, 9 o'clock. First thing Monday morning. From the Associated Press, the Wisconsin District Attorney caught sending racy text messages to a domestic abuse victim is going on medical leave. In a press release Monday, Calumet County District Attorney Ken Kratz said the length of the leave has not been determined. The news comes after Kratz said Friday he would get therapy and take personal time off as the court calendar allows. But he also said he would be handling a sexual assault trial that was set to begin Wednesday and rejected calls for lawmakers and victims' advocates to resign. Kratz's leave means his office will be down to one prosecutor, Jeffrey Froelich. Kratz acknowledged last week he sent 30 text messages to a domestic abuse victim in 3 days. And this is particularly important. Kratz said he has hired attorney Robert J. Cranen to represent him. This is when, obviously, he realised things are getting very serious and he needs legal representation. Not that it's going to help him very much. Anyway, I think we'll leave it there, and we'll do the next lot hopefully tomorrow. I say that's 11 of the reports. There's a whole load of them, but they are well worth reading through. I've read through the lot. As I say, it makes things a lot clearer as to the processes going on there, and why certain things were in the DOJ's report. As I say, so bear with us. Eventually, we get to, well, as I say, his walls are starting to crumble. And this facade that he puts on is beginning to disappear as we begin to see exactly what sort of character Ken Kratz is, which is simply despicable. But then we know that. We know that from having watched him in action in 2006, 2007. With the Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey case. And I'm always struck by the fact that you could tell while you were watching Ken Kratz in action that there was an evil, perverted mind presenting the cases. When we now discover that his sexual career goes way back. You know, people are coming forward from 1998, 1999. To show us what sort of person Ken Kratz is. You know, it's bad enough that you've got an unethical prosecutor prosecuting Stephen Avery, but the fact that you've got one who clearly thinks that he is above the law because he is the law and he can do what the hell he likes. You know, it's a case of everybody else do as I say, not as I do. You've got that terrible mix of, as I say, not only an unethical prosecutor, but one that doesn't think for one moment that he's ever going to get caught out because he is above the law. He is the law. He's basically untouchable as far as he's concerned. How wrong you are, Ken. Anyway, more from me tomorrow. Hope you're enjoying the series. Bye for now.